thinking. All right. I'm noticing the concept of devotion over discipline coming up for me often lately, where one prescribes persistence, the other prefers patience, where one invites order, the other calls for ritual, where one pushes, the other pulls. And I find, of course, more warmth in the latter, and the sense of divinity that pervades it makes it not only appealing, but all the more necessary for me to pay attention to. The notion that I should just put my head down and focus just to do the thing all of a sudden pales next to the inevitability of attention that something fueled by faith more or less demands. Practice, as a term of habit, process, progress, and accountability, seems to take on the aura of something otherworldly, wrapped in the essence of promise. And whether the promise was made unto ourselves, or by something grander, or even by the circumstance of practice itself, becomes both obsolete and the very point of it all. A promise of deliverance from the now, not necessarily as an escape, but more of a complete surrender to the very action of the very now. Practice seeks to transmute this mere process and turn it into a spiral pathway that leads deeper into our own self. And we can't forget that habit, practice, discipline, or what have you, is born and must be tended to, as a sapling requires sunshine every day and can make do with the water in its reserves. Willingness and the call of something greater must be oriented to by the self every day. It is not discipline that will smile alone and look upward on it, but devotion. And I think the other thing that sets it apart is where and what for this willingness arises. There's something externalized or reliant on a binary that discipline appears to allude to, while devotion ebbs from within. Devotion swirls the field of Atman, stirring up desire for self-realization, pursuit towards a higher self, and an uncapped trust of the inner world. There is a recognition that all movement, pursuit, and output arises and collapses from the self. And however metaphysical this clearly is, I'm called to that. The want and neglect of the calling, as far as free will is concerned, is a very duty I must fulfill. When the why boils down to why not, I must traverse the path. Pregnant with purpose, I must breathe life into the very thing that has actualized my existence. Maybe it is a way of giving back, a way of marveling, the indebtedness I carry, or simply an idea that I'm meant to share. And so it feels silly for me to keep this insight and birthed and suffocate it between these pages. But if I can offer anecdotes on how devotion works better for me than discipline, it would be paramount of me to say that it does not come without tasting discipline, at the very least. The task in all of this must be to transcend that, in order to reach the flow state necessary for devotion to flourish and flood our being in this world. When things like breaking muscle fibers turns into an awe with the mechanisms of movement, and when writing a thought a day turns into channeling ideas, or when the specificities of a brushstroke turn into play, and when pushing the boundaries of a concept, any concept, evolve into an entirely new medium of expression, and then they all finally converge at the single realization of the pursuit of passion, of purpose building, of oneness of it all, do we finally recognize the self at the center. A self that waits actively to be seen, and can do so finally by opening their eyes, which face as a sphere does in infinite directions anyway. We are the infinite self, whole and tidal and complete and manifest and indubitably perfect. They say that practice makes perfect, and it seems to me that this is not so much a matter of distance as it is decision. Perfection is the guarantee of just being, and to me, discipline is just shy of knowing through and through this singular truth. So devotion is something I'd recommend instead. It's raining.